The signal came from nowhere. Commander HFY of the Zephyrian Empire was drinking his morning fuel when the communication array started screaming. The sound was not normal. His 6 eyes focused on the display screen as data flowed across it in streams of light. Something was broadcasting from the 3rd planet of a small yellow star, the same planet his people had been watching for over 200 cycles, Earth. The humans were talking to space. This was new. This was very new. "Sir, you need to hear this," his communication officer said. Her voice was shaking. HFY had never heard fear in her voice before. She had fought in 3 wars. She did not shake. "Play it," he ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was clear and strong. It spoke in the common human language called English. The translation came a second later. "This is humanity's final broadcast. We know you're out there. We know you've been watching. Now you've doomed yourselves." The message repeated 3 times. Then silence. HFY stared at the screen. His coffee grew cold in his hands. The humans knew. Somehow they knew about the Watchers. Across the galaxy, other ships picked up the same signal. The message was strong. Too strong for human technology. At least too strong for what the aliens thought human technology could do. On the warship Blood Drinker, Captain Mortak of the Karathi Collective laughed when he heard the message. The Karathi were masters of war. They had conquered 40 worlds. They had turned living beings into weapons. Humans were just soft meat that walked on 2 legs. "The little animals think they can threaten us," he said to his crew. "They do not even have faster-than-light travel. They still use chemical rockets." His crew laughed with him. They had been taking humans from Earth for 50 years. The humans made good test subjects. They were smart enough to be interesting, but weak enough to control. Mortak had personally overseen the capture of over 3,000 humans. None had ever escaped. None had ever fought back successfully. The message was just fear, he decided. The humans were scared because they knew death was coming. Their planet was dying from their own pollution and wars. Soon there would be no more humans to study. The message was their way of crying into the void. But on the ancient ship Whisper of Ages, Elder Kethmorn felt something different. The Veiltar were old. They had watched civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. They had seen patterns repeat across time and space. They knew the signs of a species about to change everything. Kethmorn played the message again. And again. Each time the feeling grew stronger. This was not fear. This was not desperation. This was a promise. "Alert the council," he told his aide. "Something is about to happen." The aide looked confused. "Elder, it is just humans. They are barely past the Stone Age in cosmic terms." "That is what we thought about the Threxy," Kethmorn replied. "Right until they destroyed half the known galaxy." The aide's skin turned pale blue. Everyone knew the story of the Threxy, a young species that seemed harmless until they developed weapons that could destroy stars. The Veiltar still had scars from that war, 3 million years later. Back on the human homeworld, the message was being broadcast from a facility that did not exist on any map. Deep underground, in a place that had been built in secret over 50 years, humans worked at machines that should not have been possible for their species to create. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a wall of screens showing every known alien ship in the solar system. There were 43 of them. They thought they were hidden. They thought humans could not see them. They were wrong. "The message is out," she reported to the man standing beside her. General Marcus Webb was old now, but his eyes were still sharp. He had been leading this project since he was a young soldier. That was back when the first alien ship crashed in the desert and everything changed. "Good," Webb said. "How long before they start moving?" "The Karathi will attack first," Dr. Chen said. "They always do. The Zephyrians will wait and watch. The Veiltar," she paused. "The Veiltar might run." Webb nodded. They had been studying their Watchers for decades. Every alien species had patterns. The Karathi were warriors who struck fast. The Zephyrians were scientists who preferred to study before acting. The Veiltar were survivors who had lived so long by being careful. And the others? 17 different species have been visiting Earth in the last century, Dr. Chen said. Most are just curious, but 12 of them have been taking our people. 12 of them have been treating us like animals in a zoo. Webb's face got hard. He had lost his daughter to the aliens 20 years ago. She had been walking home from school when a beam of light took her into the sky. He never saw her again, neither did her mother. The grief had killed his wife. The anger had kept him alive. 12 species are about to learn why that was a mistake, he said. On the screens, they could see the alien ships starting to move. Some were turning toward Earth. Others were moving away, deeper into space. A few were sending signals back to their home worlds. Dr. Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. They still think we can't track their communications. Let them, Webb said. Every message they send tells us where their friends are. In another part of the facility, teams of humans worked on weapons that looked like they came from science fiction movies. Except these were real. They had been built using technology stolen from crashed alien ships, taken from captured alien equipment, and reverse-engineered by the smartest humans on Earth. The aliens had been careless. They thought humans were too stupid to understand their technology. They thought human hands were too clumsy to build it. They thought human minds were too simple to improve it. They thought wrong. Captain Lisa Rodriguez stood next to a ship that was sleek and silver and completely silent. It did not look like any Earth technology. That was because it was not Earth technology. Not originally, but human hands had built it. Human minds had designed it, and human anger was about to drive it. How many? She asked her engineer. 47 ships ready for launch, he replied. All crews trained. All weapons loaded. All scores ready to be settled. Rodriguez nodded. She had been taken by aliens when she was 12. She had spent 3 years as a test subject before she escaped during a ship crash. The things they had done to her in the name of science would have broken most people. Instead, they had made her stronger. They had made her angry. They had made her into exactly the wrong person to leave alive. The message had gone out. The aliens knew that humans knew. Soon they would learn what humans did to those who hurt them. But first, they had to come close enough to be killed. Rodriguez smiled as she watched the alien ships moving toward Earth. They thought they were coming to silence the dangerous humans. They thought they were coming to solve a problem. They were right about one thing. A problem was about to be solved. Just not the way they expected. The countdown began. Soon the watchers would become the watched, the hunters would become the hunted, and the galaxy would learn why you should never underestimate the species that crawled out of the caves and decided to reach for the stars. The truth about Earth's watchers went back much further than most aliens realized. The first ship had arrived in 1892, when humans still rode horses and sent messages by telegraph. The visitors were Veiltar explorers, mapping new star systems for future study. They found a young species that had just learned to make electricity. Interesting, but not important. They were wrong. The Veiltar left recording devices and moved on. 50 years later, when they came back to check, the humans had learned to fly in metal machines. This was fast progress, worth watching. They put more devices on the planet. They took a few humans to study. The humans seemed to accept strange disappearances as normal. Lightning strikes, wild animal attacks, people getting lost in the wilderness. The Veiltar were careful. The humans never suspected. By 1950, other species had found Earth too. The Karathi came first, drawn by the nuclear weapons humans had started building. Any species that could split atoms might be useful as soldiers or dangerous as enemies. The Karathi began taking humans for their military experiments. The Zephyrians arrived in 1963, interested in human brain chemistry. Humans seemed to have unusual mental abilities. They could think creatively, adapt quickly, and imagine things that did not exist. This was rare in the galaxy. Most species thought in straight lines. Humans thought in spirals. More aliens followed. The Thranks wanted to study human genetics. The Mordai were fascinated by human art and music. The Krell collected human emotions like some species collected rare metals. Earth became a popular research destination. By 1975, 17 different alien species were visiting Earth regularly. They shared information about the humans. They divided up the planet into research zones. They agreed not to interfere with each other's experiments. The humans remained unaware. Or so the aliens thought. Dr. Robert Harrison was a physics professor at MIT when his life changed forever. He was camping in the mountains of Colorado with his family when the lights came down from the sky. When he woke up 3 days later, his wife and son were gone. The search teams found no trace of them, but Harrison found something else. A piece of metal that was not from Earth. It was lighter than aluminum but stronger than steel. It conducted electricity in ways that human science said was impossible. When he brought it to his laboratory, his instruments could not identify what it was made of. Harrison spent 2 years studying that piece of metal. He learned how to work with it. He learned how to make more of it. Most importantly, he learned that someone else had made it first. He was not the only one. All over Earth, people were finding things that should not exist. Families were disappearing and leaving behind clues. Hikers found crashed machines in remote places. Farmers discovered strange devices buried in their fields. A small group of scientists and military officers began to meet in secret. They shared their discoveries. They compared their evidence. They reached an impossible conclusion. Earth was being visited by beings from other worlds. In 1978, this group became official. The world's governments created a secret organization called the Terra Defense Initiative. Its mission was simple: learn about the aliens and protect humanity from them. General Marcus Webb joined TDI in 1982, right after his first encounter with the aliens. He had been a young lieutenant then, stationed at a radar base in Alaska. The base detected objects moving at impossible speeds. When Webb went to investigate, he found a ship that had crashed in the ice. Inside the ship were 3 beings that looked like tall insects. 2 were dead. 1 was still alive. It spoke to Webb in perfect English. "You are not ready," the alien said. "Your species is too young, too violent. We are trying to help you grow." "By taking our people?" Webb asked. The alien's eyes were like black mirrors. "We take only a few. We study them. We try to understand. Your species has potential, but you must be guided carefully." "Guided by who?" "By those who have walked this path before." Then the alien died. But its words stayed with Webb for the rest of his life. The aliens thought they were helping humanity. They thought they knew what was best for humans. They thought they had the right to take people and study them like animals. They were wrong about that too. Webb brought the alien ship to a secret TDI facility. Scientists took it apart piece by piece. They learned how the engines worked. They figured out how the weapons operated. They discovered how to make the strange materials that seemed to bend the laws of physics. By 1985, TDI was building ships using alien technology. By 1990, they had weapons that could destroy anything the aliens might send. By 1995, they had a complete map of every alien presence in the solar system. The aliens never noticed. They were too busy watching primitive humans fight with gunpowder weapons and chemical rockets. They did not think to look for secret bases hidden under mountains and inside asteroids. They did not imagine that humans could reverse engineer technology thousands of years ahead of their natural development. Dr. Sarah Chen joined TDI in 2000, after her brother disappeared during a camping trip in Nevada. Like many others, she had found evidence that he had been taken by something not from Earth. Unlike many others, she had the skills to do something about it. Chen was a computer expert. She learned how alien communication systems worked. She figured out how to intercept their messages. By 2005, TDI was reading every alien transmission in the solar system. They learned the aliens had names for humans. The Karathi called them useful meat. The Zephyrians called them developing specimens. The Threnks called them genetic resources. None of the aliens used words that meant people or friends or equals. Chen also learned something else. The aliens had been changing humanity's development. They had started wars to test human weapons. They had released diseases to study human medicine. They had even guided human technology to keep it from advancing too quickly. Every major plague in human history had been alien-made. Every big war had been alien-guided. Every time humans got close to discovering something important, the aliens found ways to slow them down. The aliens thought they were being helpful. They thought they were protecting a young species from destroying itself. They did not understand that humans did not want protection. They wanted freedom. By 2010, TDI had enough alien technology to fight back. But Webb and Chen convinced the leadership to wait. If humans attacked too early, the aliens would call for help from their homeworlds. Earth would face fleets of ships instead of small research groups. Better to wait. Better to learn. Better to prepare for a war that would end the threat forever. For 15 years, humans continued to play the role of primitive natives. They pretended to struggle with problems that alien technology had already solved. They acted surprised by developments that TDI had planned years in advance. They let the aliens think they were still in control. Meanwhile, TDI built ships in hidden factories. They trained soldiers in secret bases. They prepared weapons that could reach across the galaxy. They mapped every alien research station, every hidden base, every ship that visited Earth. Most importantly, they learned where the aliens came from. Every species that had taken humans would face justice. Every world that had approved the experiments would face consequences. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They thought humans were like every other species they had studied. They thought humans would accept their situation and be grateful for alien guidance. They had never dealt with a species that held grudges for generations. They had never faced beings who would spend decades planning revenge. They had never encountered a people who believed that freedom was worth any price. In 2024, Webb and Chen decided it was time. Human technology was ready. Human soldiers were trained. Human anger had been building for 50 years. The message went out to the stars. Simple words that told the galaxy something had changed on the third planet of a small yellow star. Now the aliens would learn what humans did to those who treated them like animals. The lesson was about to begin. The revelation came at exactly midnight, Greenwich Mean Time. Every major television network on Earth interrupted their regular programming. Every radio station stopped playing music. Every government website displayed the same message. Every phone in the world received the same emergency alert. My fellow humans, the message began. Today you learn the truth about our world. President Martinez spoke from the White House. Prime Minister Khan spoke from London. Chancellor Mueller spoke from Berlin. President Yamamoto spoke from Tokyo, all at the same time, all saying the same words in their own languages. For over a century, we have been watched. We have been studied. We have been treated like animals in a cosmic zoo. Today, that ends. In living rooms and coffee shops, in offices and schools, humans stopped what they were doing and listened. Many thought it was a joke. Some thought it was a movie promotion. A few thought it was the end of the world. They were all wrong. It was the beginning of a new world. We know about the ships that hide behind our moon, the message continued. We know about the bases on our asteroids. We know about the beings who have taken our brothers and sisters for their experiments. We have known for 50 years. We have been preparing. As the words were spoken, things began to happen around the world. In the Nevada desert, a mountain split open like a flower blooming. Inside was a space facility larger than most cities. Ships rose from hidden hangars, their hulls gleaming with technology that looked like science fiction made real. In the Pacific Ocean, islands that did not exist on any map suddenly became visible. They had been hidden by technology stolen from the Veiltar. Now they revealed themselves as massive military bases, bristling with weapons aimed at the sky. In Antarctica, the ice cracked and shifted as underground facilities revealed themselves to the world. Humans in environmental suits worked around machines that hummed with alien energy. Today we launch Operation Terra, the message announced. Every alien presence in our solar system will be eliminated. Every ship will be destroyed. Every base will be captured. Every being who has violated our sovereignty will face justice. Commander Zexai watched the human broadcast from his ship, hidden behind Earth's moon. His 6 eyes widened in disbelief as he saw the human facilities revealing themselves. The technology was impossible. Humans should not have been able to build ships like that. They should not have known about alien stealth technology. Sir, his sensor officer called out, I'm detecting energy signatures moving toward our position. Zexai looked at his screens. 12 human ships were approaching his location. They moved without engines, floating through space as silently as Veiltar scouts. Their hulls were covered in metal that his sensors could barely detect. How? He whispered. His communication officer turned from her station. Sir, they're sending us a message. Play it. A human voice filled the bridge. It spoke in perfect Zephyrian without translation errors or accent problems. Zephyrian research vessel, Star of Knowledge. This is Captain Rodriguez of the TDF ship Retribution. You are ordered to surrender immediately. Any attempt to flee or fight will result in your destruction. Zexai's mandibles clicked in confusion. TDF? Terra Defense Force, the human voice explained as if reading his mind. We've been watching you watch us. We know you've taken 847 humans over the past 60 years. We know you've conducted medical experiments on them. We know where you sent their bodies when you were finished. The Zephyrian commander felt cold fear creep up his spine. The humans should not have known any of that. The research had been classified. The disposal sites were secret. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. The human voice continued. Or we can do this the hard way. Zexhai looked at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for orders. He was a scientist, not a warrior. His ship had weapons, but they were designed for defense against pirates and raiders. Not for fighting an enemy that seemed to know everything about Zephyrian technology. Sir? His tactical officer asked. Zexhai closed his eyes. His people had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated the humans completely. Now they were about to pay the price. Power down weapons, he ordered. Prepare for boarding. Similar scenes were playing out all across the solar system. Captain Mortak of the Karathi Collective tried to fight. His ship Blood Drinker was designed for war. It had armor that could stop nuclear weapons. It had guns that could destroy cities. None of that mattered when 3 human ships appeared around him like ghosts materializing from nothing. Karathi vessel. Surrender now, came the human demand. Mortak laughed. You dare threaten the Karathi? We are the masters of war. We have conquered 40 worlds, and now you're about to lose in your own backyard, the human replied. We know about the torture chambers in your ship. We know about the human soldiers you tried to create. We know about the children you took for your breeding experiments. Mortak's laughter died. How could they know about the classified projects? You will pay for your crimes, the human voice said. But first you get to choose how you die. Fast or slow? The Karathi captain snarled and opened fire. His plasma cannons erupted in streams of deadly energy. The beams struck the human ships and did nothing. The energy was absorbed by hulls that seemed to drink in the deadly light. Slow it is, the human said. What happened next would be talked about in Karathi military schools for generations. The human ships did not return fire with energy weapons. Instead, they fired solid projectiles that moved at incredible speeds. The projectiles punched through Karathi armor like paper. They found every weak point in the ship's design with surgical precision. Mortak's ship died piece by piece. First the weapons, then the engines, then the life support systems. The humans were not trying to destroy the ship quickly. They were taking it apart deliberately, keeping the crew alive to experience every moment of their defeat. Please, Mortak finally begged. We surrender. We yield. Too late for that, the human replied. You should have thought about surrender before you started taking our children. The ancient elder Kethmorn made a different choice. When the human ships appeared around his vessel, he immediately sent a message. Human ships, this is Elder Kethmorn of the Veiltar. I wish to speak with your commanders. A new voice answered him. This one was older, weathered by years of pain and anger. This is General Webb. You're the one who's been taking our people the longest. Yes, Kethmorn admitted. For over 200 years. We thought we were helping your species develop. By kidnapping our people, by studying them, by learning how to guide your growth. Your species seemed so young, so violent. We thought you needed careful direction. Webb's voice was cold as space. Did it ever occur to you to ask us what we wanted? Kethmorn was quiet for a long moment. No, it did not. We have guided many young species. They are always grateful afterward. Well, we're not grateful. And we're not young anymore. The Veiltar elder looked at his screens. The human ships around him were sleek and deadly. Their technology was familiar. It was based on designs his own people had created millions of years ago. But it had been improved in ways that made no sense. The humans had taken ancient Veiltar science and made it better. How? He asked. We had good teachers, Webb replied. Every ship that crashed on our world. Every piece of equipment your people left behind. Every scrap of technology you thought we were too stupid to understand. We learned from all of it. Kethmorn felt something he had not experienced in millennia. Fear. Real cold, desperate fear. What do you want from us? Justice, Webb said. For every human you took, for every experiment you conducted, for every time you decided our lives were worth less than your curiosity. Around Earth, the alien ships were being systematically captured or destroyed. Those who surrendered were boarded by human soldiers wearing armor that looked like it had been designed by nightmares. Those who fought were eliminated with weapons that turned their own technology against them. In hidden facilities around the world, humans watched the operation unfold. Many wept as they saw their loved ones' captors finally brought to justice. Others cheered as ships that had haunted Earth's skies for decades burned in the void. But this was only the beginning. The aliens in Earth's solar system were just scouts and researchers. Their homeworlds were still out there, still believing that humans were primitive animals. Soon they would learn the truth. Humanity was no longer hiding. Humanity was no longer afraid. Humanity was coming for them all. The first human fleet left Earth 3 days after the solar system was cleared of alien presence. They did not wait for the enemy to recover from shock. They did not pause to negotiate or send diplomatic messages. They moved like predators who had been caged too long and finally tasted freedom, Captain. Lisa Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the flagship, Vengeance as it slipped through hyperspace toward the Karathi home system. Around her, 49 other ships moved in perfect formation. Each ship carried weapons designed specifically to destroy Karathi technology. Each crew member had lost someone to Karathi experiments. Time to target? Rodriguez asked. 18 hours, her navigator replied. Lieutenant Chen, Dr. Sarah Chen's nephew, had volunteered for this mission the moment he learned his aunt's work had made it possible. His sister had been taken by Karathi raiders when she was 8 years old. They had tried to turn her into a living weapon. She had died fighting their conditioning. Any sign they know we're coming? Negative. Long-range sensors show normal system traffic. No military buildups. No emergency broadcasts, Rodriguez nodded. The Karathi still thought humans were trapped on their little blue planet. They had not received any messages from their research ships because those ships no longer existed. As far as the Karathi knew, everything was normal. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Meanwhile, the second human fleet was approaching Zephyr Prime, the capital world of the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Sarah Martinez commanded this force from the bridge of Righteous Fury. Her fleet was smaller, only 20 ships, but each one was equipped with technology, stolen from the Zephyrians themselves and improved by human engineering. Martinez had a personal reason for leading this attack. Her daughter had been one of the Zephyrians' favorite test subjects. They had studied the girl's brain for 5 years, trying to understand human creativity. When they were finished, they had returned her to Earth, but the person who came back was not Martinez's daughter anymore. The Zephyrians had left her mind broken and empty. "Ma'am," her communication officer called out, "we're receiving standard Zephyrian traffic from the system. Port authorities, shipping schedules, entertainment broadcasts. No mention of Earth or any missing research vessels." "Good," Martinez said. "Let them keep thinking they're safe." The third fleet, under the command of General Webb himself, was heading for the most dangerous target, the Veiltar Collective Worlds. Webb's force was the largest, 70 ships carrying the most advanced weapons humanity could build. They would need every advantage they could get. The Veiltar were old. They had survived wars that destroyed galaxies. They had technology that could reshape reality itself. But they had one weakness. They thought in patterns that had worked for millions of years. They could not imagine something truly new. Humanity was new. "General," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting Veiltar sensor networks throughout this region of space. They're scanning everything that moves." "Are they detecting us?" "No, sir. Our stealth systems are based on their own technology, but we've made improvements they never thought of. As far as their sensors can tell, we're just background cosmic radiation." Webb smiled grimly. 50 years of stolen technology was about to pay off. The attacks began simultaneously across 3 star systems. The Karathi were hit first, simply because their fleet was the strongest. Rodriguez's ships dropped out of hyperspace right on top of the main Karathi naval base orbiting their homeworld. The base was huge, a metal moon bristling with weapons and armor. It housed 50,000 Karathi warriors and their families. It was supposed to be impregnable. The humans proved otherwise in 12 minutes. "Target their communication arrays first," Rodriguez ordered. "I want them isolated. No calls for help. No warnings to other systems." Human missiles streaked through space like silver lightning. They struck the base's communication dishes with pinpoint accuracy. Each missile carried a warhead designed to disrupt Karathi electronics. The explosion sent waves of energy through the base's systems, shutting down everything electronic. "Second wave," Rodriguez called out. "Target their weapons." This time the missiles carried different warheads. Instead of explosions, they released clouds of microscopic machines. The tiny robots ate through Karathi metal like acid through paper. Defense guns collapsed into dust. Armor plating crumbled away. In minutes, the mighty base was defenseless. Now, Rodriguez said quietly, we board them. Human soldiers in powered armor launched from the ships in small attack craft. They cut through the base's hull with tools that made metal flow like water. Once inside, they moved through corridors designed for beings twice their size. But size did not matter when you had weapons that could kill with surgical precision. The Karathi defenders were brave. They fought with the skill of natural warriors, but they had trained to fight other Karathi, or species similar to themselves. They had never faced humans in battle. Humans fought differently. They used terrain that Karathi ignored. They struck from angles that Karathi could not predict. They worked together in ways that confused enemies used to individual combat. Most importantly, humans fought angry. Every soldier on that base knew what the Karathi had done to human prisoners. They had seen the videos. They had read the reports. They had sworn oaths over the graves of the dead. The battle was one-sided. Within 2 hours, the base was under human control. The surviving Karathi were herded into their own prison cells, the same cells where they had kept human captives similar. Scenes played out on Zephyr Prime. Admiral Martinez's fleet struck the planet's orbital research stations without warning. These were the facilities where Zephyrian scientists conducted their experiments on lower species. The stations were not military targets. They were scientific installations, lightly defended and completely unprepared for attack. The Zephyrians inside were researchers, not soldiers. Many of them genuinely believed they were helping the species they studied. Martinez felt no sympathy for them. They had 50 years to stop, she told her officers as human troops swept through the research labs. 50 years to realize that taking people without permission was wrong. They chose to continue. The humans found horrors in those labs. Beings from dozens of species kept in cages for study, children taken from their families and raised in isolation to see how they would develop. Prisoners subjected to surgeries that should never have been performed on living creatures. They also found something else: detailed records of every experiment, every subject, every species the Zephyrians had studied. The files contained the locations of Zephyrian facilities throughout the galaxy. More importantly, they contained the locations of other alien research programs. Admiral, her intelligence officer reported, "We've hit the jackpot. These files show us where to find every species that's been taking people from primitive worlds." Martinez looked at the data streaming across her screens. Hundreds of species, thousands of facilities, millions of sentient beings treated like laboratory animals. "Download everything," she ordered, "and transmit copies back to Earth. Command needs to see this." The attack on the Veiltar worlds was different. General Webb's fleet did not strike military or research targets. Instead, they hit the Veiltar council chambers. During a full session of their government, the Veiltar were in the middle of discussing humanity's disturbing message when human ships materialized in orbit around their capital world. The ancient beings had been debating whether to increase surveillance on Earth or abandon the human project entirely. The debate became pointless when human soldiers teleported directly into their chamber. "Honored elders," Webb said as he materialized in the center of their council ring, "we need to talk." The Veiltar were too shocked to move. Their security systems had not detected the intrusion. Their shields had not stopped the teleportation. Their weapons had not even registered the human presence until it was too late. Elder Kethmorn, who had surrendered his ship rather than fight, stood slowly from his floating chair. "How?" he asked. Webb gestured to the soldiers around him. Their armor was sleek and black, covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. "We've had very good teachers. Your people, the Karathi, the Zephyrians, you all left us plenty of homework." Another elder, this one ancient even by Veiltar standards, spoke in a voice like wind through dead leaves. "You cannot be here. Our defenses are absolute. Our technology is beyond your understanding." "Your technology," Webb corrected, "is now our technology. Improved, modified, and turned against you." He looked around the council chamber. "Do you know what the difference is between us and you?" The elders waited. "You think knowledge belongs to the strong. We think knowledge belongs to the free. You study other species to control them. We studied you to defeat you." Webb activated a device on his wrist. Holographic displays filled the air around the council chamber, showing the destruction of alien facilities throughout 3 star systems. "This is happening right now," he said. "Your research stations are burning. Your military bases are captured. Your people are learning what it feels like to be caged and studied. The eldest Veiltar spoke again. What do you want from us? Webb's smile was cold. Everything. The locations of every species you've been studying, the records of every experiment you've conducted, the coordinates of every world where you've taken people without permission. And if we refuse, then we take it anyway. But first we show the galaxy what happens to species that treat others like animals. The Veiltar looked at each other with eyes that had seen the rise and fall of civilizations. They were beings who had survived cosmic disasters and galactic wars. They had outlasted species that once ruled the stars, but they had never faced anything like humanity. We will comply, Elder Kethmorn said finally. Webb nodded. Smart choice, because this is just the beginning. As human forces consolidated their victories across 3 star systems, messages were already being transmitted back to Earth. The galaxy's greatest civilizations had fallen to humanity in a single day. Now the real work would begin. Every species that had taken people from primitive worlds would face human justice. Every facility that conducted experiments on unwilling subjects would be destroyed. Every being who thought themselves superior to others would learn the price of that arrogance. The hunt had begun, and humanity was very, very good at hunting. 2 years after the first human ships left Earth, the galaxy had learned to fear the sound of their engines. What began as surgical strikes against 3 major species had grown into something much larger. Humanity had not stopped with the Karathi, Zephyrians, and Veiltar. They had used captured alien databases to hunt down every species that had participated in the exploitation of primitive worlds. Admiral Rodriguez, now commanding the largest human fleet in space, stood before a massive holographic display, showing the current state of galactic civilization. Red markers indicated human-controlled systems. Yellow showed species under human protection. Gray marked civilizations that had been corrected and were now following human guidelines for interacting with developing worlds. The map was mostly red and yellow now. Status report. Rodriguez requested from her aide, Commander Chen. 17 more species have requested protection status this month, Chen reported. They're offering to share all their research on primitive world interactions in exchange for guarantees that we won't visit them, Rodriguez nodded. Fear was a powerful teacher. Word had spread throughout the galaxy about what happened to civilizations that mistreated other species. The humans did not negotiate. They did not make deals. They arrived, they conquered, and they enforced their rules with absolute certainty. What about the hegemony? Chen's expression darkened. Still defiant, they formed an alliance with the remaining free species. They call themselves the Coalition for Galactic Order. They claim humanity is the real threat to galactic peace. The hegemony was a group of 12 advanced species that had refused to submit to human authority. They controlled nearly a quarter of the galaxy and commanded fleets that numbered in the thousands. Their technology was ancient and powerful. Most importantly, they had been watching humanity's expansion and learning from human tactics. They thought they could win a war against Earth. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Though they made any moves against our protected worlds? Rodriguez asked. 3 raids last month. They hit developing civilizations under our protection and took specimens for scientific research. They're trying to prove that humans can't protect everyone. Rodriguez felt the familiar cold anger that had driven her for the past 2 years. The hegemony species were old and proud. They believed that advanced civilizations had the right to study primitive ones. They saw human protection of developing worlds as interference in the natural order. Prep the fleet, she ordered. All ships, all crews. It's time to finish this. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Webb stood in the same underground facility where humanity's war of liberation had begun. But the room had changed dramatically. Where once there had been screens showing alien ships hiding in Earth's solar system, now there were displays tracking human fleets across half the galaxy. Dr. Sarah Chen, now bearing the title of Director of Galactic Intelligence, approached with a datapad in her hands. The final pieces are in place, she reported. Our sleeper ships have reached the hegemony's core worlds. The virus programs are ready for activation. All human fleets are in position. Webb looked at the main display. It showed 12 star systems, each containing billions of beings who thought themselves superior to younger species. For centuries, they had taken people from primitive worlds. They had conducted experiments that would have horrified devils. They had treated sentient life as nothing more than raw material for their research. How many humans did they take over the years? Webb asked. Chen checked her data. Conservative estimate. 2 million. That's counting only direct abductions. If we include humans killed in wars they started, diseases they released, and other experiments in human development. She paused. 8 million. Maybe more. Webb closed his eyes for a moment. 8 million people. Mothers, fathers, children, lovers, dreamers. All taken from their lives to satisfy alien curiosity. All treated as things instead of people. Begin the operation, he said quietly. Across the galaxy, human fleets moved into action. But this was not like the previous campaigns. This time, humanity was not interested in conquest or occupation. This time, they wanted to send a message that would echo through space for 10,000 years. The hegemony had prepared for human attack. Their core worlds bristled with defenses. Their fleets patrolled in massive formations. Their leaders met in secure facilities buried deep underground. None of it mattered. The attack began with the activation of computer viruses that human agents had been planting for months. The viruses were based on Veiltar technology, but improved by human programmers who understood chaos in ways that ancient minds could not grasp. In minutes, hegemony communication networks went silent. Defense systems turned on their own ships. Automated factories began producing materials that exploded when exposed to air. Then the human fleets arrived. They did not appear on the edges of star systems and fight their way to the planets. They materialized directly in orbit around the hegemony homeworlds, using teleportation technology that should have been impossible even by galactic standards. The space battles that followed lasted less than an hour. Hegemony ships found their weapons turning into flowers. Their armor became transparent. Their engines began singing opera instead of producing thrust. Human technology had moved beyond simple destruction into the realm of impossibility. But the real message came when human soldiers landed on the hegemony worlds themselves. The soldiers did not kill. They did not destroy cities or burn libraries. Instead, they did something much more terrifying. They took people. Every hegemony leader, every scientist who had participated in experiments on primitive species, every military officer who had authorized raids on protected worlds, they all vanished in beams of light. Exactly the way humans had been vanishing for over a century. The difference was that the humans announced exactly what they were doing. Attention beings of the hegemony, came the broadcast from every human ship. For the past 300 years, your species have taken people from their homes to satisfy your scientific curiosity. You have justified this by claiming that advanced species have the right to study primitive ones. Today, we test that theory. The captured hegemony beings found themselves in facilities that looked exactly like the research stations where they had conducted their own experiments. The cells were the same size. The observation equipment was identical. Even the feeding schedules matched what the aliens had used on their human subjects. You will be studied, the human voices explained over the facility speakers. We will examine your biology, your psychology, your social structures. We will run tests to see how you react to stress, isolation, and fear. We will do this because we are more advanced than you, and advanced species have the right to study primitive ones. The captured beings protested. They demanded to be released. They claimed that what the humans were doing was wrong, immoral, a violation of galactic law. The humans played recordings of every similar protest made by human captives over the past century. Then they continued their experiments. But the humans added something the aliens had never included in their research. They broadcast everything. Every experiment, every test, every moment of alien fear and confusion was transmitted across the galaxy for all species to see. This is what you did to us, came the message with each broadcast. This is how you treated people you considered beneath you. Now you know how it feels. The psychological impact was devastating. Species that had spent millennia justifying their treatment of primitive worlds suddenly saw themselves in the place of their victims. The beings who had thought themselves wise and benevolent realized they had been monsters. Within 6 months, every major civilization in the galaxy had contacted Earth requesting terms for permanent peace. The terms were simple: absolute prohibition on interfering with developing worlds. Any species found taking people from primitive planets would face the same fate as the hegemony. All research on unwilling subjects would cease immediately, and humanity would maintain fleets throughout the galaxy to enforce these rules. Most species agreed instantly. A few tried to negotiate. None tried to fight. The galaxy had a new order now. Earth was no longer a hidden backwater world where aliens conducted secret experiments. It was the capital of a human empire that stretched across known space. In the rebuilt facility where it all began, General Webb stood before a new display. This one showed not alien ships threatening Earth, but human ships protecting hundreds of developing worlds. Species that had lived in fear of abduction now grew and developed in safety. Civilizations that had been stunted by alien interference were finally free to reach their potential. "Any regrets?" Dr. Chen asked, joining him at the display. Webb thought about his daughter, taken by aliens when she was just a child. He thought about the millions of others who had suffered the same fate. He thought about the species still developing on worlds throughout the galaxy, now safe from those who would treat them as laboratory animals. "Only one," he said finally, "that it took us so long to fight back." On the screens around them, new signals were being broadcast from Earth, but these were not threats or demands. They were invitations. Offers of friendship to species ready to treat others as equals. Promises of protection to those who needed it. And warnings to any who might think that the strong had the right to exploit the weak. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer hiding. They were no longer afraid. They were no longer alone. And they were watching everyone now. The last broadcast from Earth had become the first broadcast of a new age. An age where taking people without permission carried consequences. Where treating others as animals meant becoming animals yourself. Where the galaxy had learned to fear the species that crawled out of caves and decided that freedom was worth any price. The watchers had become the watched. The hunters had become the hunted. And the galaxy was a safer place because of it. Humanity had kept its promise. Those who had doomed themselves by treating humans as less than people had learned exactly what that meant. The lesson would last forever.